welcome to the Fellowship of the Films podcast, a podcast where we discuss movies, TV, and other pop culture related topics. My name is Duncan, and with me I have Ryan.
Hey.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, or using the links in the About section of our channel. Today we're going to be in anticipation for Wandavision, the new Marvel TV show. We're going to be discussing and ranking our top 5 MCU films. Let's get started. So, Ryan, can you tell us your number 5 in your ranking?
Sure I can, Duncan. So I actually put one that you guys probably won't see coming as number 5. I put Iron Man 3. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. It's not. You put Iron Man 3 as 5 is better than XYZ. Well, I quite like Iron Man 3 because it shows us a different side to a character we already know. Because in the movie, most of you know if you've seen the movie. Spoilers, but Tony Stark, he's without a suit for full access to a suit for a good portion of the movie. And I actually kind of like that because it really kind of fleshes out his character as, you know, with the suit, it's just he becomes kind of almost like immortal in some scenarios where it's just immensely powerful. But without the suit, it shows that like he can get like hurt a lot easier and like actually, you know, have to use his like immense brain because, you know, he's kind of smart. You know, the character's supposed to be kind of smart. So I really like that aspect of the movie. Also, pacing seems a lot. It's number 5, so it's not the highest ranked, but it's good movie overall, I believe. And yeah, I put Iron Man 3 as number 5.
Awesome. It didn't quite make it there from me, but I can definitely agree with you on some of the points. It's definitely one that I don't think deserves the kind of backlash it got. So I'm going to reveal my number 5 now. Mine is Spider-Man Homecoming. This one I just really thoroughly enjoyed. Each time I've watched it, I first saw it in theaters, and I just really liked the interpretation of Spider-Man a little more than the others, just because I really liked that they made him a little bit younger. I just felt that's how Spider-Man should be. That's the kind of Spider-Man I've wanted all the movies to be, and he always just felt too old in all of them. But this one felt just the proper age for Peter Parker to be. Apart from that, it was exciting. It was well-paced. It kept you interested. And, I just really like this one. It's probably my top Spider-Man movie, so it definitely makes it into my top 5 MCU movies.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. It didn't make my top 5, but it was on my contention for my list. It was on there. Definitely, I do agree with you on all your points. Like Tom Holland, great. I honestly like it as Spider-Man. It makes sense. It makes sense for the character.
Yeah, for sure. And the movie has its flaws. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the excessive inclusion of Iron Man in the movie. I kind of wish it was a little bit more just Spider-Man. But then again, this version of Spider-Man that's in the MCU is very heavily tied to Iron Man, or was at that point. So there's reason for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree with you there. Like, and I see the movie. It does do a job of slowly over time he becomes less tied, especially in the sequel. But no, definitely, I agree with you there. In that first party, there is a little bit for a Spider-Man movie. There's a lot of Iron Man.
There is, yeah.
Although I am a fan of Iron Man, but
yeah, for sure. Let's move on to number 4, Ryan.
Okay, for number 4, I put Thor Ragnarok. Solid movie, gotta say. Overall, it really liked this interpretation of Thor as a character. It goes against how he is in the comic books, and other people may not like that, but I actually quite like it. Just because it's more fun compared to the other 2 Thor movies, and it does remind me of a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy in a way, kind of, because they're both spacefaring adventures. And I quite like I like the interpretation of the character. It's high energy throughout the entire movie, which I think is really what Thor. He's kind of an exciting guy, you know, big guy with a hammer, turns into an axe later. But you know, even in the movie without either of those, like, it just shows good character growth for Thor actually, and it actually kind of, I like it because it almost is like it's almost a reimagining of the character. And if you look at Thor Ragnarok and then his growth and then Infinity War and Endgame, it kind of shows like that almost is kind of like a trilogy in itself, you know, just because it shows how the character like changes and adapts to, you know, such loss and such happenstance that just not the best scenario, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I did enjoy that one as well. I think I'm less fond of it than you, only because I think it's not to throw my opinion in here as well, but um, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to that movie, my opinion on it is Thor Ragnarok is a good superhero movie. I don't consider it a good Thor movie. I consider it a good superhero movie, only because I don't. It's not. It's not my favorite interpretation of Thor. It's a good movie. It's not a good Thor movie to me. But respecting your decision there, because it is a really good movie, and depending on how you like Thor, then both.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to share mine now. Ranking in number 4 for me was The Avengers. This was a great one. I thought it kicked off the whole MCU, and it was the first one to kind of bring all of the characters together. Like, they had done all the separate movies, the Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and this was kind of bringing them all together. So that was just really cool in itself. It was also one of the first. It holds a special place for me because it was one of the first Marvel movies and first superhero movies, for the most part, that I had actually saw and taken an interest in. So that one definitely has 4. It also, just the pacing's good for me. There's certain characters, like, has its flaws still. There's certain characters that I feel don't get enough time, or like Hawkeye.
Yep.
Everybody knows the Hawkeye debate with him not getting very much time at all because he spends most of the movie mind controlled by Loki. But so it has its flaws, but I still think it definitely makes it on the ranking for me.
Yeah,
what do you think about that one?
Definitely. No, I agree with you. Like, I don't have as much of a personal attachment to the movie because I never seen it in theaters. I ended up just watching it later on demand. But no, honestly, I like the movie. It's a good movie. Only I have a couple of criticisms, though. It's still a great movie overall. It does start a little slow, in my opinion. Like, some of the stuff, like, sure, you got this is the first MCU thing, but like in comparison to some of the later stuff, it is noticeable that it does start a little bit slow to me. Like, how when they're gathering all the other Avengers, and it's like just a little slow to start. But overall, yeah, and I do agree, Hawkeye kind of gets a little shafted there. But overall, gotta say, yeah, I can see it being number 4. You know, I can see it.
Okay, awesome. Let's hear your number 3.
So
getting up there.
Yeah, we're getting up there. You know, top 3 now. Top 3 of 22 plus movies, and still going. My number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and I actually I really like it. You know, it's similar reasons to Thor Ragnarok. I quite like it's more higher energy overall. You know, and it just shows a bunch of just quote unquote losers. Who kind of just join together and, you know, get better. Like, honestly, it shows a good character growth throughout, good character moments, and pacing's good. Like it overall. James Gunn, great director. Quite like just honestly overall, quite good movie. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I just it's one of those movies where I just sit down and like rewatch multiple times. It's good. I like it.
Definitely, I can agree with that. Yeah, I agree. It's a really good film. It's not as high for me because I'm definitely more of a fan of the Avengers style ones and those kind of characters on Earth and stuff. The Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm less my favorite, but I definitely agree. It's a great movie. It was just below my list. It almost made it onto it. So, yeah, really good movie. I don't have a whole lot to say about that one. I just think it's pretty good.
Yeah, good overall.
My number 3 is Iron Man, the one that started it all.
Oh yeah.
I think this is a great movie. I like it. In the Marvel movies now, we have a lot of movies that aren't too standalone. Most of the movies have some general bigger connection to the MCU. And you kind of need to have seen everything, like something else to fully get the full experience of that movie. But I just like that Iron Man starts off the whole thing, so it's just kind of introducing people. You can show it to anybody who hasn't seen another Marvel movie, and they still get the full experience that anyone would, because there's not that larger universe yet. It kicks it off, so if you really like it, you can keep watching and see everything turn into what it does, or it can just be a great standalone movie. I think the action is great for the time it was made. Like 2008, I think most movies I've seen from 2008, the action was pretty good, but I think this one definitely stepped it up. I like it being a little bit less, it's a little bit more of a traditional movie as well. Like lots of the MCU movies, essentially its overall feeling with me is that I like how different it is from the rest of the MCU movies. Lots of them now, like most of them now, they're more colorful and more. This one's just kind of a mainstream movie that just kind of incorporates a Marvel character into it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. What do you think?
No, definitely. I agree with what you're thinking. Like I actually am gonna spoil something. It's actually my number 2. And I really quite like the movie, honestly. I'll just go into that. Like overall, great. I like Tony Stark in the MCU. I like it. Like it's great, honestly. Just like his character flaws at the beginning and just the journey overcoming, like even just the minor stuff. Like I like how it just kicks everything off it's a great start to the entire like journey that's been this MCU. And I just
for sure, and even if you what's fun is to look at it from there and then look at like a later one and see how like the character development in these movies over 10 years is really interesting, because if you see how far Tony Stark has come over these movies, that's partially why I like that one so much, because that's the very, very start of that character, in contrast to what we see the very, very end of that character.
Oh, I know what you mean. Like I know for me, after I watched Endgame, I went straight home and actually just watched Iron Man, just because like it's just a conclusion to just like Tony, like overall like just a great start. Like and also it's a fun movie too to watch. You know, just like the action, like it's good. Like for it's not dated like some other movies, but it's not dated. Like I like it actually. Still, I'll watch it. Like I've watched it a bunch. Like when it was on Netflix, I love that. It was great, honestly. One of my like I said, number 2. But gotta say, overall, great movie.
Agreed. And okay, so that's your number 2. So I guess we'll just go on to
your number 2 now.
My number 2, yeah. So my number 2 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is one of my favorites because I really like the Captain America movies, and I didn't want to include more than one. Like, I like them as a whole, but I didn't want to include. I definitely have a favorite amongst them, and that's the Winter Soldier. This one, I'd say, for me personally, when it comes to the action, I'd say this was some of the best action for the type of action it was. It wasn't giant space action or anything, but for the type of action it was some of the best action I've seen in the MCU, and like definitely some of the best action I've seen in an action movie, period. It's just a great action movie with great storyline. It adapts a great Marvel comic book, which is like the Winter Soldier comic book. It's really good, and I don't think I have any other specific points on it. I haven't rewatched it in a while, but yeah, it's just a really good movie.
No, definitely.
What do you think?
I want to agree with you on that. Like, it was that one. It hurt me, but that was my number 6. Basically, that would have been my number 6. Iron Man. I just like Iron Man 3 a little bit more, but that's my number 6. Honestly, great movie. I love the action. The action's amazing. Honestly, like action's great. It has this weird vibe where it's just kind of like it's almost like a thriller movie. Honestly, more than like it just has this like constant vibe where it's just like I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's just anything like when the first time I watched it, I actually just like if I hadn't seen that, I honestly kind of believed that Nick Fury was dead. Honestly, spoiler, but I actually believed it. I actually believed it first time I watched it because I hadn't seen anything else after, so I actually thought he just could have been dead. Honestly, it does great job on that, and like for a fake out that like they got me. Like maybe I'm just dumb, but like it got me actually, and overall like great action as you said. great. It introduces Falcon, which is, it's a good that's a good way that they should introduce characters. Just in throughout stories. I just like how they the introduction there. I like that actually.
Well, and the great thing about it is it makes sense as well.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense, he just goes as because when Steve Rogers gets out of the ice, well, he obviously isn't going to know that many people, like it's not like he's like hitting it up on like the Insta and like everything,
Yeah. I wanted to add this movie, the performances. I really enjoy the acting in this movie, particularly in who plays the Winter Soldier. I'm not quite. I think it's Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, Sebastian Stan. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's his name. His performance as the Winter Soldier, I thought, was really well done.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He had to show that conflict, right? He's not just a blank supervillain. He's got those memories that are almost beat out of him there, but he's got them still there. He has to fight those. So I thought his performance, his acting was really well done. Mm-hmm. I also, of course, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury all the time was great performance, but I thought this one was. I just really liked his character in this movie as well. Yeah,
me too. I agree with your points on there. Like both those great performances, honestly. You also got Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, still really good. Like I liked his performance there too, and just like overall, like good performances from all the actors, and like makes a good movie. In addition, good action, good performances, good pacing, good direction.
Yeah, it doesn't really slow down too bad. Like the pacing is pretty.
Oh no!
Pretty consistent.
Oh, I like the pacing. Really, very consistent. Honestly, one of the better Marvel movies. They just never, for me, it's just never. Like I said, it's number 6. It just there's some I like better because I'm more kind of into like more high energy, and like it does like it's not the highest of energy, but it's still high energy. It's good. Honestly, just great movie.
For sure. Let's get on to our number 1. Curious what yours is going to be, and I think it might be the same, but let's hear it.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's probably the same too, but my number 1 is Avengers Infinity War. It's a good movie. I quite like it. It's overall just one of the... what hasn't been said about it? It's such a crossover between like so many characters, and it's handled really well. Like sure, a couple do get a little bit less screen time, but for how many characters there are actually in the movie, I think it's handled pretty well overall. And Thanos, Thanos is literally, people actually remember like some of the other Marvel movies, forgetful villains sometimes, like some of like Thor 2 and like Iron Man 2 and stuff. A lot of the 2s, except for Captain America, but. Forgetful villains, but like Thanos, he's a character. He's actually like a character in the movie. Like his motivations actually make sense. Like you're not supposed to agree with them because wiping out half the universe, not the best play in my opinion, especially when you can do literally anything. But he has motivations that are understandable. Like he actually has emotions and like feels stuff. Like he actually was sad when he shoved Gamora off the cliff. Spoilers, but. You could actually see him like feel emotions, and it's just overall Josh Brolin amazing. Is just like the voice. Some of those voice lines, just like, and some of even like the VFX team, like Thanos looks really good. Like quite
absolutely, yeah.
Like honestly, it looks real. Like overall, like over these movies, like for the amount of in between like Rocket and like Thanos and all that, for the amount of characters that are just like it looks real. It looks, I have to say, like I know it's a movie, but it looks real. Like it's just a great movie, honestly. Great crossover between many characters, and overall, I gotta say, probably my number 1 favorite Marvel movie. I've watched it over a day in time now. In between different viewings, probably over 12 times. Still great, honestly. Probably one of my favorite movies of all time. And like the ending. That ending is just honestly still gives me shivers sometimes. This is like,
that was quite a surprise ending.
Just the snap. I knew there was a sequel, right? Because they had already like spoiled that, but like. I just still like you knew he was probably going to win, especially from like the comics and stuff. But like, still, it's just you think for just that one moment where you just feel like, Thor, he's overpowered. He'll get him, and then he just doesn't. It's like, what?
Yeah, when I
What?
first saw it in theaters, I didn't actually like. I hadn't seen any comics or anything of Thanos because they're fairly old, and I just hadn't gotten a chance to review them before the movie. And when I went and saw that in theaters, just when that happened, I was like, it was kind of like an oh crap moment when you're like, no, they're actually going to do this. There is no winning in this movie, which is different for a movie because I'm used to movies where they win for the
Yeah.
most part.
Oh yeah, most movies, yeah, the good guys win, and this one's just nope. Yeah,
No,
they
exactly.
kind of just they just lost, and it's surprising because like, and even just like a lot of like even the smaller character moments and stuff is just I love it. Great movie, honestly. The
Absolutely.
smaller character moments and just everything about it is just like it's fun. You know, it's a fun movie. Sure, there's flaws, but it's a fun movie to watch. Like
And
it's a great way to just spend 2.5 hours.
yeah, and I wanted to add, I like how with this one they kind of throw you back and forth with. They try to, because essentially this movie, like when I listen to, I watch some special like some features and stuff on it, and they're trying to get you to follow along. It like when it comes to the hero's journey formula, it's when they were following the hero's journey formula, it was Thanos's hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hero, but it was his journey. Like he went through the trials, and he went through the. It was his journey, and these other characters were like a bunch of his like trials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it made you kind of go back and forth because it's like you'd be going for him because he's the one you're following along and completing a mission with. But then you keep realizing, oh no, crap, we're cheering for the good guys here. But then you follow along with his story, and slowly you're brought to his side a little bit. So they keep you very conflicted between the two sides, which I find a very interesting way to do it, and it builds that excitement and builds that surprise as well when he does win at the end of the movie.
Oh, honestly, it's such a surprise, especially like it's
It
just
was back then, yeah.
oh yeah,
For
like
sure.
nobody's seen it coming, you know. Like, well, I mean, okay, people seen it coming, but like it's still like just the way it was just executed is just great. It's phenomenal, honestly. Like it's like, and it brought such Thanos, which is such a like in the comics he's such a big character, right? Because he's immensely powerful, and like you actually thought like at each moment, the good guys could win here, like each of those little moments, like when they were on like the ship, you could have seen, maybe the Hulk would have won there, but like he didn't, and then like each of those little battles, you could have like I could see those characters beating Thanos, right? Like,
Absolutely. And even when they had his glove almost off and they put
mm-hmm.
it back on, you're like, okay, well, they're going to find a different way now.
Uh-huh.
And then
Exactly.
they don't.
And
Yeah.
then like in each of those conflicts, like even like at the Battle of Wakanda, just like all of those, I could see those characters like actually beating Thanos. And sure, people
And,
have made
and,
arguments why they should, but the one thing is like things don't always happen as they should. There's other factors.
and they're so close to beating him so many
Oh
times.
yeah, like it makes his like struggles seem almost relatable because just he's so close to defeat at many turns, and he just keeps pushing forward because of his like pure belief in his goal.
Absolutely. Um, it's definitely a great movie.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see
I'm
what your
going to
number
go.
one is now.
I am going to go into my number one, which is Avengers Endgame.
Oh,
A little bit different than yours.
yeah, a little bit different.
I like this one better than Infinity War for a couple reasons. I love Infinity War. It almost got onto my list, but I didn't want to include too many Avengers movies. So I was like, hey, I'm going to cut it, but it is still up there. It's connected to Endgame. It's up there. Endgame got the higher ranking because of a couple factors. So Endgame I liked because A, it was longer. I know it's just fairly blank to just say that it was just longer, but I just like there's so much more you can do in 3 hours. And though that is exhausting to some people, and some people said the movie had a lull in it, like the pacing got slow partway through it. I did not think it did. I thought 3 hours were perfect. I thought it was enough time for you to let the events of Infinity War kind of settle in, and you to see actually how this affected their world,
Mm-hmm.
and for them to start coming to a reasonable, believable conclusion throughout the movie. What else about it? I really like people criticize the time travel in it. I really like the time travel actually because not only did um, it's fairly plausible solution to how they do this, as well as they took a different turn on time travel. Like they did not do the same rules to time travel as in other time travel movies, and then also that they went back in time through the MCU. Now, after watching these movies for how many years and building up to this over the span of how many movies, when you get to travel back in time and see snippets of some of the best movies throughout this series from another angle, that was just really special to me because as we saw, the Avengers is on my list. I just liked seeing them go back to that scene from Avengers, that battle scene from the Avengers movie. I liked seeing them go back in time and go to the Guardians of the Galaxy location, and then the Thor: The Dark World part I thought was great because they went back to the part in Thor: The Dark World, and that meant that movie got a little bit more positive. Made me want to rewatch Thor: The Dark World, even though it's one of the less appreciated Marvel movies.
Definitely.
It shed some positive light on that movie as well. That was what that was from, right?
Yeah, that was for the Dark World because
Yeah.
Jane, she had the ether in it or whatever.
Right. So overall, I think it is an absolutely excellent movie. I have my criticisms with it, of course. It's not perfect. I'm not a huge fan of what the Hulk looks like in the movie.
Professor Hulk.
He's cool, but I felt like we had the actual Hulk, the raging Hulk, that the Hulk is, in my mind, supposed to be for a very short span of time. And they wanted to change it for this movie. I get that, so it's not a huge problem for me, but that was just one of my tiny nitpicks. But overall, it's definitely my number one Marvel movie. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I agree with you on that. Like it was on my list of contention. I gotta say it was a good movie. I kind of like the only reason it didn't make it is because it kind of felt like just an experience to me more than kind of a movie. It's like watching it's like a 3 hour just. It's great. Like if you go for like from the time travel, gotta say for time travel in a movie, it's done well. It's just hard to do time travel in a movie. It's hard. It's just really hard. And I think it's done quite well in there. Overall, grit. Like what else is there? Many amazing performances. Still does a good balance of like good job of balancing all the characters. And something that's interesting is it actually even just thinking about it myself, almost every single MCU movie is represented in some way in that movie. Like when you break it down, like if you look at Captain America, like if you look at all like the original origin stories, each of those characters are in there. That's their representation, right? And if you look at Captain America 2, there's that one moment on the elevator, where like, Hail Hydra, that whole thing, right? That's on there, right? And then you got, if you look for the Dark World, they go back to Asgard during the time period of that, and Thor gets to reconnect with his mom, which, great character growth for him there. There's just so many different great parts about the movie. It's just, overall, like, gotta say, it's just great 3 hour end, almost basically, it's kind of the end to Phase 4. I almost, Phase 3, I say. It almost is, like, sure, there's Spider-Man Far From Home after that, but honestly, it feels like it's a good conclusion to like a lot of the characters that we've grown with like for 10 years. Like
absolutely,
gotta say,
and
yeah.
To add to that, it just holds like it's. I get just saying about experience too. I see it as a movie as well, but I see where you're coming from with experience. Like for me, it was an experience as well when seeing it in theaters, seeing it happen play by play. When you first saw like some of the amazing moments of that movie, like when first of all when you realize that he actually, when it skips forward after they kill Thanos, when it skips forward 5 years and you actually see that the world had to deal with that, it's just a different turn. Like it surprises you, right? But it's definitely experience because there's some memories that I'm sure people will have forever with that movie. Like when Cap first catches Thor's hammer,
that was amazing.
The complete like just the screams in the theater, like the cheering and it was an event. It was like literally the excitement of a sports event. Your favorite team just scored an awesome goal right there.
So, yeah, great sports analogy, but Yeah, no, I get what you're saying though. Like, it's so just there's so many moments. Like when like for example, like when that one moment is just like I and see here's the thing. Like I like it's a good moment, honestly. Like it was hinted on earlier in the movie and in Avenger and Age of Ultron too. But overall, just great moment. And just so many great moments in the movie. Like I gotta say, like when okay, of course, Tony Stark snaps. Totally, that was okay. That's a thing people are gonna remember. Like this and MCU's been going on for 10 years. People are gonna remember some of those big moments in Endgame 10 years from now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I said, it's an experience. There's so many points to which an MCU fan could be just so happy to see whatever is going on the screen. Like it's certainly a conclusion. It's certainly anything that makes someone who's a fan or even not a fan just really enjoy the movie.
Oh yeah, it's such an enjoyable movie overall. I gotta say, like there's just so many different callbacks to older movies and just like I know as someone who's seen all of them, I really I appreciate some of those other callbacks. You know, they're good. There's some good moments. You know, I can do this all day.
Absolutely, yeah, and some stuff like that we've never seen done before, like a character in a superhero movie, at least a character versus I don't know if we've seen this, maybe we have, but a character versus his younger self, just in a superhero movie. We just hadn't seen something to that extent in the MCU.
Oh, definitely, yeah,
which is really interesting to see.
Oh yeah, especially like that. There's just so many. The dynamic overall is just it's great. Yeah, honestly, one of my favorites too. Just Absolutely. Missed out on my list, but I can see how you put it as number one.
We each picked one of those two movies.
I know that's kind of the point that when I was making my list, because we made our list independent. I actually was thinking like it was a hot contender for a while. I was on the thought process of Endgame is number one and Infinity War is number two. But I decided to go with. I actually quite like how my list changed a lot over like the thought process, but. Honestly, like I can see Avengers Endgame. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just kind of see them as the movies as those two as like a couple. So I always just kind of pick one. I like them both, but I always just see them as like a part one and a part two. So I just kind of pick one when I have to rank them or something. So this one's definitely when I have to finally pick. I think this one's Wish lands with number one.
Oh yeah, and I know definitely for me, like I remember there's been a couple of days where I've I remember when I got my wisdom teeth out, I just sat down, I watched Infinity War, I'm like, you know what I gotta do? I gotta watch Endgame now. So I just sat down and watched Endgame, and it was...
Oh yeah, it's hard to watch Infinity War without watching Endgame directly after. You can watch Endgame by itself, it's kind of less good, but like I prefer to watch the two together, but you can't just watch Infinity War by itself, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. No. It does, I gotta say, it has that effect. Like, sure, it does have that effect. It just, after Infinity War, after you've seen Endgame and you're rewatching Infinity War, you want to watch Endgame again, just because it's a great movie, honestly. And it's a good conclusion to the story that Infinity War sets up.
Yes. Okay, well, do you have any concluding thoughts on just the general ranking? Anything else you want to add?
I don't have anything else in general ranking. I mean, we do have we actually had some similarities in our list, but we had a couple of differences, you know? And it shows that just different people can have different appreciations for different movies, you know? MCU has been one of the most consistent franchises throughout 10 years. That's just that's an amazing fact that just overall most of those movies, gotta say, are some of my favorite movies. Like almost all of them. Sure, they are. Some say they are a tad formulaic, but just it's good formula.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I thought there's definitely more. I could expand my list if I wanted to, but if you gotta combine, if you gotta cut it into 5, then that's what's going to make it.
See, I was thinking of going for. I was actually going to go for the sneaky top 10 quick, but like we cut it into 5. You know, make it you know a little bit more concise.
I think 10. There's only 22, so you do 10. And it's your favorite half.
Almost. Well, yeah, the good half, you know.
Eventually, we may do an episode ranking all of them.
All of them, yeah. But this is just some quick episode for excited for WandaVision, first MCU TV show being released. I'm excited.
Yeah. There's been other ones that have been connected to it, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in is sort of in the MCU. It's connected to it, but WandaVision is like a direct installment into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Definitely. What
are
your thoughts? Like, what do you think? What are you thinking? You know, before like pre thoughts, quick.
I'm anticipating this show a lot, mostly just because we haven't had any Marvel content in, I think, nearly a year and a half.
Oh, it's been a while.
It's been a while. So just excited for that, just to have something new Marvel to watch, as well as the fact that it's premiering with, I believe it's premiering with two premiere episodes.
Yep,
so
two
episodes to go with, and I just think it looks really different. Sometimes, a Marvel movie will come out and you'll be like, okay, I can see that being a regular Marvel movie. Like when Endgame was about to come out, we were like, okay, it's regular. It's it's going to be awesome, but it's a regular Marvel movie, and they managed to surprise us. So I can't imagine how much they're going to surprise us when we see that this is not a regular Marvel thing. Like we're like this is already looking very different from what we've seen before. So I'm very interested to see the turns they're going to take with it.
Oh, definitely, I agree. Like I know for me, after. Like, if you kind of look, like, sure, they had a couple of, like, sure, I wasn't the hugest fan of, like, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, but if you look at just from Infinity War to Endgame to Spider-Man Far From Home, which I also really quite liked, they've been on a pretty good streak, honestly, recently, and I'm excited to see I'm excited to see, of course, Black Widow, which eventually, maybe, but I also excited to see WandaVision, honestly. I think it's going to be a pretty good show. I'm hoping it's a good show. Definitely. I do think it's going to be, and from just judging from the trailers, like, it's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be one of the more out there additions to the MCU, but I think it's a worthy addition, and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Absolutely. And so, and then we'll hopefully be reviewing it and getting an episode up as soon as we can, when we see the first couple episodes there.
2 episodes.
And so watch out for that.
Coming on hopefully on Saturday. So
hopefully, yeah, certainly that weekend after it's
definitely that weekend. Yeah, no promises here, but like definitely that weekend's gonna get that review out.
We're gonna try for that. So I think that concludes our episode.
Yeah, I think I don't got much more to add. What about you?
No, I'm good. Okay.
All right, cool.
So thank you for listening. Remember to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram, or you can use the links in the About section of our channel.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. We are the Fellowship of the Films podcast. Catch you next time.
Yep. See you guys.